Okay, well, I don't know if I'm even going to put this out, but if you know what that is, good for you. If you don't, it's a Saginaw steering box, power steering, for a Jeep, Chevy, Dodge, others used them as well. This is the sector shaft or steering shaft. This right here is a piston slash gear. I'm probably going to be calling everything the wrong thing. That interfaces with these teeth. Oh boy, that's going to look wonky. Okay, here we go. And this goes on the what I'm going to call the worm drive gear, because it's a worm gear. These 24 ball bearings, there's a piece of crud in there. I don't know. It came out of the steering box. I don't think it's supposed to be there. This goes on here. There's 24 ball bearings that go through race, and they're actually the load bearing surfaces in all of these troughs. And in those as well. They're captured in that cage. When you take the piston off the shaft, they fall out. The valve body is in this neck. This is your input. It goes on the back. Yes, there are two of them on the table because they're both bad. I'll show you why in a minute. Unlike a manual steering gearbox, the input shaft is not one piece. It's actually 2.5, kind of. So that goes together. This all goes in through the back. There's a roller bearing and 2 race washers. That sounded wrong. The roller bearing doesn't roll so much as it just looks like it did once. It was covered in rust. I'm sure it's overheated. This thing was completely rusted out. But that's the smart end. That's the dumb end. There's enough rust in the bore of this and scoring marks. Right now it's wet. I ran a 200 grit bore hone in it yesterday just to see if I could get some of it to clear up. No, that's garbage. There's nothing going to seal against that. I don't think there's any way to sleeve that. I'm not even going to try. What I am going to try to do is make it a manual. I've looked all over the internet. I cannot find anybody that talks about in-depth converting these to manual steering. And there's probably a reason. Because I don't believe these two tangs are strong enough to be the sole transmitter of input from the driver to the wheels without shearing off. I'm kind of trying to assess that. I pulled this apart. I haven't gotten all the crap out of here to free all that up. There's a spool valve in there. The way this works is really crazy. I'm not going to try to explain it. Look it up on YouTube. There's a couple of good explanations that I found. Essentially, this shaft needs to be torqued to one side or the other. It opens a spool valve inside here, which allows fluid to flow from one port to another, which allows fluid to go from either the back side of the piston or the front side of the piston, depending on which way you want to steer. So basically, the steering input shaft is just a switch for the hydraulic unit to open valves and allow flow. I just replaced the one in my green Jeep with an older unit I had, and it didn't go good. Actually, I had a couple of problems that made it seem like I failed completely, but I just really needed to put all new power steering fluid in it, tighten a belt, and put a nut on a stud that had all backed off and were combining to make the thing squawk every time I tried to turn it with a load on it. I went through all the normal break-in procedures and the fill-in procedures and all of that, and it still made tons of noise when it had a load on it. So I purged everything out, tightened it up, and it works great now. The truck is once again fun to drive, even though you can't really tell what it is right now. Maybe the offset diff will help. The cat won't. So looking for manuals online. They're $400 for a reman. They're $500 plus for a new one. For a manual. For a reman, because they're not making these new anymore, for a reman Saginaw, it's close to the same price. I really don't want to pay that for something that was put together by people that don't care about their job. They just want a paycheck, which is sad that pretty much all aftermarket parts are like that now. I can't use this one. I did the same honing test on that as well. You can see there's a problem. This is the main reason I took it out, was because there's a score mark here, probably where the at-rest centered position is. And when it was below freezing, it was a bear to get it out of that at-rest centered position. Start the truck up in the morning, everything would be fine. I just couldn't steer the wheel. I'd have to saw back and forth on it for a few minutes just to get it to actually steer properly, and then it would work. And it doesn't have the problem in the summer, but suddenly it did start having a problem, so I'm like, okay, I need to get rid of this stupid thing. And that was the one that was off this truck. So I had rebuilt another one about 2 or 3 years ago and let it sit, and then threw it on there and put ATF mixed with power steering fluid in it, and it made a lot of noise and seemed like a total failure. But it works great now. We'll see how long it lasts. So those are my thoughts. If somebody's going to try to convert one of these to manual, they say, oh, you just need to do a bypass, looping these, but that doesn't take into effect the fact that you're still pushing fluid back and forth with a 3-inch piston without any power assistance. So I was thinking maybe cut grooves. I'll just take this out, cut grooves along this to allow fluid to pass, put the O-ring back in, because it basically needs that to stay centered in the bore, the Teflon O-ring, and remove the spool valve. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not, but right now I'm kind of just trying to figure out if I trust those two drive tangs and that tiny little keying nub to be 150% of this thing's steering transmission from driver to wheels, because that's the weak link right there, not having a solid shaft. So as I find out more, I'll post more video.